Another free agent of the day for sign or decline. Landry Locker, the Locker Room here on YouTube, as well as Sports Radio 610's In the Loop each and every day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Cody Stoots here on YouTube and Houston football as well. This was a favorite player of ours, Landry, from a couple of draft classes ago. It was a guy that we desperately wanted the Houston Texans to end up with. He ended up in the division, just not on the Texans. Michael Pittman set to be a free agent from the Indianapolis Colts. What do you think of the young standout wide receiver from the Colts?
First of all, I think they'd be crazy to let him go, especially with the quarterback situation and Richardson coming back. So I would be completely amazed if Michael Pittman left. Other thing about Michael Pittman is I don't know how he fits into this receiving core. I don't think the Texans receiving core is as strong as it's getting credit for right now. I think there's too many undetermined things. There's no depth. There's two guys who miss a lot of games. So I do think whether it's a top-of-the-line guy, whether it's a draft pick early in the draft, and I mean in the first 2 days, whether it's a veteran, they do need to address the wide receiver room, because I think we're in danger, and I say we as a fan base and as a media, of overvaluing 1 year. And that's not to say that you completely dismiss it, but I do think something needs to be done. I think the need to improve the wide receiver room is significant. Now, does Michael Pittman do that for you? You're talking about probably more bread than Michael Evans. You're probably talking about more years than Michael Evans. So if you're going to spend this big on a receiver, then I think it has to come down to, would you rather give Mike Evans 3 years, $20 million, or would you rather give Michael Pittman more years in over $20 million? For me, that's where I kind of got to draw the line. If I'm going to do this, I want to bring in the guy who's been there, done that, who appears to be kind of one-on-one, who is a guy who has ties to the area and a guy that you're going to have less of a commitment to. So that's what it would come down for me. I like Michael Pittman. I respect Michael Pittman. I think Indianapolis is going to sign Michael Pittman. But if he did hit the market, then I think this is would you rather have Mike Evans or Michael Pittman? I don't even know that a year from now we'll be having a conversation about Nico Collins or Michael Pittman and saying for sure that Michael Pittman's better than Nico Collins. So that's another layer of a discussion of bringing in a guy like Michael Pittman.
A couple of things about what you said. One of the biggest questions for me, as someone who covers the Texans here at the Combine all this week, talking to other people around the league who cover various teams, is about the wide receiver group. Is it good enough? Are they going to have enough for C.J. Stroud? And the big questions about Nico Collins as the top wide receiver, the durability of the wide receiver room. That was one of the biggest things. You talked about the Colts maybe letting Pittman get away. You know, the franchise tag did not work out well for them with Jonathan Taylor and the standoff. And they've got a lot of money, so they could sit on it and get Pittman for one more year at that big number for wide receivers, or have him and start negotiating that long-term deal and having that conversation. But, you know, the contract standoff they had with Taylor makes it really tough to see how they would have a franchise tag situation and have a contract standoff with Pittman. Here's what I'll say about the case for Michael Pittman. I don't believe he scratched the surface of what he can be. I believe there's so much more to what he is. But I also feel like
I think he's better than Nico. I mean, that would be a question. Like, do you think, like, if you bring in Michael Pittman, then would you feel comfortable letting Nico Collins walk? I mean, Not that you would have to make that decision with the cap space. Okay, well then for you, that's a strong case right there.
I would, and I believe Pittman is he's a monster on third downs. You know, the past couple of seasons when the quarterback play has been bad, it hasn't been as good. But a few years ago when he got competent quarterback play, he's one of the best third down wide receivers in all of football. That's something DeMeco Ryans mentioned this week that they look at in wide receivers when they're evaluating those guys. Separation and then winning on third down. And Pittman has a better track record than Nico Collins. Nico Collins has one really good season. Michael Pittman has two good seasons and then some solid seasons, and he plays a bunch. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he's been in the league a little bit longer than Nico Collins, but am I comfortable if I spend money on Michael Pittman that he's going to play much better than he has to this point, yes, it to me feels like an A.J. Brown situation. If he goes to a different team with a better quarterback and a better offensive situation than he's been in, he'll have the absolute best years of his career, and the Texans could be that. Listen to the quarterbacks he's caught touchdowns from in his career. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, Anthony Richardson, and Gardner Minshew. Now think about him playing with C.J. Stroud, and for at least 1 year playing with Nico Collins and Tank Dell and an improved rushing attack and hopefully a better defense than the previous year. And now I'm thinking about Michael Pittman being one of the 10 most productive guys in all of football. That's my case, is I feel like there's untapped potential that is not going to get tapped in Indy that would get tapped in Houston.
And that's the case that I like this time of the year. And there's always like a sounder when I say this, but I always talk about chess moves and checker moves. And a checker move is, hey, we feel great about Nico Collins. We feel great about Tank Dell. So we have other needs and we don't want to figure this out. But a chess move is, hey, like you're saying, like you believe, I don't necessarily believe it as much as you do, but hey, Michael Pittman is better than Nico Collins. Michael Pittman, if you give him 1 year with C.J. Stroud, like we just saw from Nico Collins, then imagine that jump that Nico Collins had with Michael Pittman, who's been more productive. And when we're making this decision about Nico Collins, who, by the way, has missed 13 games in 3 years, I keep bringing that up just because I just want that to be clear. It's a no-brainer for you. So you're kind of playing some chess in the short term. It improves your wide receiver room immediately. And that's the checkers. In the long term, you're getting what you believe is a better guy, and you're kind of making the decision to pay Nico Collins. You're making it a little bit easier because you're going to pay Pittman. Right.
And the case against Michael Pittman would be, if you believe Nico Collins is going to end up being a better receiver, is going to have a better rapport with C.J. Stroud in years 2, 3, 4 than Pittman would in 1, 2, and 3 of the contract. There's also the heavy investment from a financial standpoint. If you could sign Nico Collins this offseason, he's not getting what Michael Pittman would get as a free agent. So,
but is it risky? That's the other thing.
Sure,
and I talked about this today. If you're going to pay Nico Collins right now and you're going to get a bargain and you're going to be proactive, it's always the point of reference, the Whitney Merciless first extension. It was a steal. And then that Bill O'Brien, the football idiot, kind of, wiped that away with the dumb extension. But I mean, if you could be proactive and you can get Nico on a bargain, more power to you. Now, if you're going to be proactive and pay him, top whatever money, kind of like you did Titus Howard before, you really saw what he was going to do at tackle, and obviously it was a rough year for him, then that's where you kind of get in trouble. But I think this is a discussion as much about it's two layers. It's Michael Pittman versus Mike Evans. And I mean, if you're thinking long-term, then I think it speaks for itself, no matter what Mike Evans does, that Michael Pittman will be a long-term solution if you believe what you believe. And if you're thinking short-term, I don't know that there's like a massive, massive difference between the two players right now. And I think a lot of people might even lean Pittman.
And the additional case against Pittman is, hey, if you make this big investment at wide receiver, you probably can't make some other big investment on the defensive side of the football, either a defensive tackle or defensive end. So I certainly understand somebody
given the market quickly. So
yeah.
An opportunity there, sir.
And of course, if he gets franchise tagged, I have zero interest in spending a draft pick and the money to go and get Michael Pittman. So the verdict on Michael Pittman, I'll let you go first.
No. For me, it's no. I would rather do the short-term commitment to Mike Evans if we're going to talk about this type of bread. I also think in this system that there's a chance that we're talking about Nico versus Pittman. But if I felt like you did about the player, I can 100% understand why you're probably going to put your thumbs up for this one.
I'm going to go sign on Michael Pittman. Should he hit true free agency, you'll be incredible in 2024. And maybe you figure something out with Nico Collins. Maybe he gets franchise tagged a la T. Higgins in Cincinnati getting franchise tagged because Jamar Chase is going to have to get paid. So you can maybe get 2 years of Pittman and Collins and Tank Dell, and then Nico Collins is on his way out. I would sign Michael Pittman. I have a hard time believing he's actually going to hit true free agency.
Yeah.
The Colts have more cap space
than
the Texans do this offseason.
Well,
so
you want to talk about a weird win-win. If they don't if he does hit the market and he goes somewhere else and you take him away from Anthony Richardson, that's a win for the Texans. Maybe just as much as actually signing the guy, depending on where you sit, whether you're on my side or your side.
I'd be so annoyed if he ended up with another AFC contender and made them even better, while the Colts also got worse. Like, I don't know if he ended up in Kansas City or something. That would
you're just being crazy.
That would be very annoying. You know what's not annoying is the free agent of the day. Sign or decline. We do one each and every day. He's Landry Locker, the Locker Room here on YouTube. Sports Radio 610, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. weekdays on Sports Radio 610. And, of course, I'm Cody Stoots right here on YouTube and Houston Football, www.houfootball.com. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channels if you haven't already, and we'll have another free agent of the day for you tomorrow.